Hello, and welcome to HRBC show called Let's Talk. I'm Nina, your host. There's a new book out called From the Eyes, Ears, and Heart of a Foster Child: What It's Like to Be Passed Along in Foster and Kinship Care. Today we have the chance to sit and find out about how this amazing book came to be. Please welcome the author, Miss Vivian Blaize. Welcome. Would you
Thank
like
you.
to tell us a little about yourself?
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Uh, yes, it is my memoir, and it's taken me quite a while to write it and to research everything to document what I say in it, which is important because uh, oftentimes when you're making comments about various things, it's always best to be able to have backup information on it. So everything in my book has been researched, 7 years worth, and I had a unusual childhood. Um, I was a foster child. I had 4 foster homes by the time I was 12. And when I came into this world, my mother had tuberculosis. And back then, tuberculosis was worse than COVID because they didn't have a cure, they didn't know what to do with it. And they would institutionalize individuals who had tuberculosis. In my mother's case, um, she had I had she had 2 babies already. They took them, and I came along premature, and the Elmira Department of Social Services was my first home. I was in an incubator. My parents, for the reasons of her being ill, turned over my rights to social services. Uh, and I talk about that in the book in more detail. The individual who was married to my mother, and I say individual because he actually was the one that decided I was not going to stay in the family, whereas others went to his family, and that ended up being quite good for me because I had very good foster homes.
Awesome. So I have some questions.
Mhm.
My first question: how did making this book come about? What inspired it, and what do you want to accomplish with it?
I had actually totally wiped out the whole thing. I am not a psychologist. I am not a doctor. I have no medical background expertise. But in my research and studies, I found out about the uh, brain and the temporal lobe of the brain. And I have to check my notes too to make sure I'm saying this correctly. Has what's called the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is where you have your memory and your audio and all those things. It also is where you have the ability to shut out negative trauma,
Mhm.
negative experiences. And if anyone had listened to the Kavanaugh hearings, Dr. Beasley Ford, when she talked about the hippocampus and the things that were in it, and I went and looked at that, and that's what happened. Everything shut down in my hippocampus, and I totally wiped it out for a long time. I didn't want to remember anything, I didn't want to recall. And consequently, as I grew, incidences would happen that would temporarily open up my hippocampus to let something out. It could have basically, if I ever went to a funeral, funerals would definitely trigger slight openings in my hippocampus. And I didn't know what they were because it kind of would go like in this space. And I was at a funeral, a friend's funeral for his sister. And this was the first time I had experienced it. And I wasn't there. It was like I went into this space. And next thing I heard was voices coming from afar, coming back to me. Startled out of it. I didn't understand it at the time.
Mhm.
It took a little while. And there were little things that would happen that the same thing would occur. And I call them blank trances, like you go into a trance or something and you're not where you are. you're somewhere else for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, uh, I kind of would shake it off until I started somehow being able to connect those times. And once I started connecting them, then I started remembering what had happened. Um, it was a lot of trauma.
Yeah. And what do you want to accomplish with this book of yours?
My purpose is to help other foster kids to achieve.
Yeah.
I was told in my fourth foster home um, when I was about 12, and I was told that never tell anyone I was a foster kid because no one would like me. They wouldn't want me around. They wouldn't want to uh, do anything with me,
Yeah.
and I would not achieve.
Mm-hmm.
I was a obedient child. Back in those days, when an adult told you something,
Yeah.
you didn't question it. You just did it. And the way it was done so that if I told anybody, it would appear that I was lying.
Mm.
It was a deflection. In other words, I kind of became a scapegoat because that same person was herself a foster child. She
Mm.
didn't want anybody to know that either because her experience, mine looked like nothing compared to what hers was. And she didn't want anybody to know. So this is what she set up. And if I said otherwise, then it would appear that I was not telling the truth. So I went on, and the thing I did, the foster homes I had before that were very good foster homes. They were incredible people. They loved me, and they raised me. They raised me right, and so I was an achiever then, and I just continued on.
Oh. Okay. All right. Tell us about the book cover art.
Ah, when I started writing the book actually in 2005, 2006, and I wrote 20 pages, and I couldn't go any further. I couldn't get anything out. And it was a long time. It wasn't until I heard Dr. Busy Ford when it all came together. And I just cried and cried and cried. And I started writing again and I started researching. And then when I got my rough draft together, I designed my cover and I needed someone to illustrate the things I wanted on that cover. And I kept thinking, who? And then it hit me. I had the most perfect person, the person who, since she was 4, has come to my house and was drawing and just incredible talent, natural talent. And I used to take her over to Michael's before she went back home and load her up with drawing materials and everything. And that is my oldest granddaughter,
Hmm.
Peyton. And I said, Peyton, that's who I want to do my cover. So I called her, and I have to say, she's an incredible young lady. She graduated from high school with a 4.2 GPA. And she said, Grandma, you're my inspiration. And she's just an incredible young lady. And she's a sophomore in college right now and lots of scholarships. And anyway, she says, Grandma, I'd love to do it. I said, well, before you say yes, I want you to do something for me. I'd like you to read the rough draft. See, nobody knows
Hmm.
because it was trapped in my metacampus.
Mm-hmm.
And my metacampus was like, really? You think I'm letting this out? I don't think so.
Yeah.
She read it. She called me up. She said, Grandma, still want to do the cover? She said, you have been through a lot. She said, I'd be happy to do the cover. I said, hey, I still love you the same if you don't want to do it. She said, oh, no, I'm going to do it. So we started, and all of the illustrations on the front of the cover, Peyton did.
Oh.
Freehand, I must say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did the cover together.
Awesome. Okay. Now, what's the difference between foster care and kinship care?
Okay. Foster care. My first foster home was Elmira Department of Social Services. They put me in a foster home with Ada H. Carter, who had 52 foster kids over her lifetime. I was her last one. There were 3 of us left in the house.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 girls were um, that I can recall when I was like 4, 5, 6. They were like maybe 11, 12, something like that. So they were a little bit older. And Mama had her daughter there and her son-in-law, Mary Ellen and Alfred Spellman. And I got christened, and they were christened my godparents. And Mama Carter told me, she said, if anything happens to me, Vivian, your godparents will look after you. So that became my kin. So that's the kinship.
Okay.
So I passed along from my foster mother to my kinship family. And that family became a family for me for 6 years after Mama passed away.
Yeah.
And then Mama Mary passed away. And I got passed along again to kinship care. That was my fourth pass along.
Okay.
So that's why foster to kinship care.
Okay. So basically, um, when they placed you in the home, that was foster care, and then when your mother passed, and she passed you to a family member, that's kinship care.
That's kinship care.
Got it. All right. In the beginning of the book, you talk about this deep trance, like mental black holes. What triggered them? Do you know? And when did you recognize that that was what was happening to you? Because I know we talked about it a little earlier, but when exactly did you realize, hey, this is what is happening to me? And what, if you remember, is what triggered it?
That's a good question. And I'm not sure I can totally answer that question to anyone's satisfaction because I'm not sure I can answer it to mine. Uh, as I write in the book, little things would be going on, regular things in my life, and all of a sudden I would freeze and I would go into this place that I couldn't, that it was cloudy and I could see something going on that was similar to what was happening at that time. So I didn't see, for example, uh, I was dating someone and we were having a nice dinner and came back and I was standing up by the wall and he was going to give me a hug. And all of a sudden I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Hmm.
I went into this other place, which was what happened earlier, which I later on talk in the book about Uncle Brother standing me up against a wall. And I was standing against a wall with this person that I had been out with. And I just went the other place. So my hippocampus gave me a glimpse into what I had previously experienced that it had sealed up.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, I came back to where I was and I couldn't answer what happened to me. And I heard him speaking, but it was like at a distance. And all of a sudden, it was right in front of me. And I was like, oh, okay. I had no idea what was going on. None. And they didn't have no idea what was going on. Those were things that would happen. And it wasn't until uh, I was able to understand the hippocampus that I started putting things together. And then I went back and started writing.
Mm.
And as I wrote, things came out. One of the things, Mama Carter, that was my second foster home that the Human Services put me into, the social services. She used to tell me when I was a little girl that I had a photographic memory. I had no idea what she was talking about. But what I've come to learn is I have an episodic photographic memory.
Hmm.
And as I started remembering and writing, uh, just as we're sitting here, I can see that episode in detail, just like I was there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've come to realize as I've been writing and going back, and my hippocampus has totally opened up. My temporal lobe has opened up. The brain is an incredible thing. And like I said, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I've never had any medical experience or anything. All I've done is some research to understand myself and what went on in my mind. And again, listening to Dr. Beasley Ford describe it in that trial, I was like, my gosh, that's what's been happening.
Mm.
The flashbacks is what they are. They were flashbacks. Yeah. I was calling them black holes or something, but they were actually flashbacks. in things that happen. So a similar thing would happen right now. While it was happening, I would have the flashback. And then what was happening here just kind of got lost.
Mm. Okay. So tell us about your foster mother. What are your favorite things that you can remember about life with her and how she impacted your life?
Well, Mama Carter was an incredible lady. She had, in all of my research in finding out about where I lived, she had a 4-story house on a corner lot in Elmira, New York. It's huge.
Mm.
This was an African American lady at that time
Mm.
with that kind of property. And she um, had everything for us. In her basement, she used to can. She had a garden out there with fresh vegetables, and she would get her uh, the ball canning jars and the wax and everything, and I used to watch her and help her.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole basement, which was uh, rather dark and cool,
Mm-hmm.
it was like going to the supermarket.
Mm.
Carrots, corn, tomatoes, everything, and she had them labeled and all on the shelves. And all you had to do is go get it and cook them. And so she had the garden, so there were fresh vegetables all the time. And for some reason, I could not drink cow's milk because I couldn't digest it.
Mm.
Whatever was wrong with me when I was born, uh, that's one of the problems I had in foods. So I don't know if she had them before I came or not, but there was, I call them nanny goat and billy goat. I had fresh goat's milk every day. I could tolerate goat's milk, but I couldn't tolerate cow's milk. So we had that. The other thing that she always did was uh, just encourage all the time. And we went to church. There were 2 churches that we were associated with there, Southside Baptist Church and Monumental Baptist Church. And I'm not sure who went to what, but I know in my research
Mm-hmm.
and things I found those churches, and I have the documentation that identifies those churches as them having been in there. And she I remember her and I walking down to downtown Elmira one day. She got me dressed up in this pretty pink dress with my white socks and black patent leather shoes. And my hair was really thick and long. So I had the 3 pigtails and tied with pink ribbon. And we walked down there to get my picture taken.
Mm-hmm.
And I only saw that picture twice. I've never seen any. I don't know what happened to it. Everything was just kind of gone. I don't have anything. And I think the biggest funny thing was I was a very inquisitive person when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So mama gave me picture money to take to school.
Uh-huh.
And at that time we could walk to school. And the sidewalks were slate. And had big trees along the way, and sometimes the trees would uproot the sidewalk, the slate, because we would always play hopscotch and all on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to school with the money. It was in an envelope.
Yeah.
But before the school doors opened up, I don't know what possessed me to go singing it. All of a sudden, everything
came out that
envelope, all over the dollars, the coins. You know, I'm out there with the other kids, right? I am 5 years old.
Yeah.
I tried to get all the money up. I don't know if I did or not.
You know they took some money.
I don't know, but I tell you what, I don't know why that teacher had to tell mama.
She didn't kept that to herself.
Because in those days, you did something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
it got home before you did.
Mm-hmm.
Miss May was here. Mr. May was here. Mr. May's, Mrs. Kids, the aunts, the uncles, all the way home. Everybody knew. By the time you got home, well, let me tell you, I never ever lost any money going to school anymore. I didn't play, do anything. I took that money and gave it right where it was supposed to go. So she was always very kind and very understanding, and I loved Mama dearly.
Yeah.
And then one day, I can't call her. She didn't come. I'm like, where's Mama?
Yeah.
And she passed away, and I didn't know what that was or anything. And I called her and yelled for her. She didn't come out. I'm like, where is she? And they said, well, she's gone to live with God. She's gone to live with God. Jesus took her. And so you're going to go with Mom Mary and Daddy Alfred. And I'm like, where's Mama? They don't want to go with you. Where's mama?
Yeah.
And I remember going through this cemetery and the gate, Woodlawn Cemetery, and I remember seeing this big hole in the ground and where's mama? Why is this hole here? And it was crazy. And then they brought this box out and they said, well, mama's in the box. Why is mama in the box? Why is she not talking to me? Why can't she get out? Why you put her there? You know, and then everything after that is gone.
Mm.
Totally a blank.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, those days they didn't explain anything to kids either. You were seen, but you weren't heard.
Yeah.
They didn't look at kids as being, well, they had, you know, this is a problem for them. No,
Yeah.
the adults didn't look at it that way. So I didn't know what happened to mom. I didn't know, and I cried for a long time because mama wasn't there.
Yeah.
She was just an awesome lady, and her clout in Elmira was huge. Everything we did was in the newspaper.
Mm.
My I actually have my original birth announcement. It's in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a birthday party, a fourth birthday party, and it was in the paper too, as well as a whole lot of other stuff in the paper. I mean, she got press.
Yeah.
She got press. She was quite an influential person. And I didn't know what happened to her. And I finally found Mama.
Yeah.
I found her just before last Mother's Day. I found her. She is in Woodlawn Cemetery in Elmira.
Yeah.
And my genealogist and dear friend in Elmira
Yeah.
took permanent flowers and we put them on her
Let me show it.
that's her grave and her headstone.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's beautiful.
So I know where she is now, and I'm
Yeah.
okay now.
That's good. That is good. So what at what age did you talk to your birth parents and what was that like?
Well, I have to start with my maternal father,
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa Woodard. He's what kept me connected to my family, my
Mm-hmm.
natural family, my blood family, and so that I knew my mother and relatives and all. And Grandpa made sure that uh, my mother kept in contact with me. Grandpa was my rock. He was the one that pulled things together for me, and he was kind of like Mama Carter. I could always count on him. That song says you can always count on me. And so my mother never really interacted with me that I can recall until I was, golly, I think in my teens, I would go visit Grandpa and then I would see my mother. But it wasn't until I was in my 30s or 40s, I think my 40s, maybe even 50s, I think 40s. Excuse me. I went to her one day because nobody had ever said anything,
Mm-hmm.
never discussed, never brought out. So I went to her one day and I asked her, why didn't you ever come back for me? Why didn't you come get me? And she said she had nothing to offer me.
Mm-hmm.
And when she came out the hospital, she felt I was better off where I was at, so she left me there.
Hmm.
And in reality, she was correct.
Yeah.
I was better off where I was at. I don't think I would be where I am today
Yeah.
if I had not stayed with Mom Mary and Daddy Alfred Spellman. And they did a good job. They were just like Mama Carter told me, they're your godparents, and they're going to take care of you. And they did. My mother's, she was very sick.
Yeah.
And I asked her if she had any pictures of me or anything, because I have nothing. Do you have any pictures of me as a baby? And she said no, because she never saw me.
Mm.
They never brought me to her.
Mm.
She was that sick. And tuberculosis was, like I said, it was worse than COVID. So she never saw me. And I kind of call him the sperm, he had already signed me away.
Mm.
So she had no choice but to follow suit.
Yeah.
So that was that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Tell us about Uncle Brother.
Uncle Brother. Mama Carter had two sons.
Yeah.
And they lived with us. They live in her 4-story home. They lived in the top. I am guessing that it was an apartment, for the two of them up there or something, because we were never allowed up there. That was, Mama used to say, "There's nothing up there for you, so don't go up there." So none of us, we never went up there. So they lived up there, and I always heard the grown ups say, we used to call them the grown ups, the old folks.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it funny how that switches? And we used to hear them say he was shell shocked because he was in the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I would believe that would be PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps. Again, I'm not a medical doctor or anything like that. I'm just trying to put two and two together. Anyway, he was a little bit more than shell shocked. He had some major issues with being inappropriate with kids,
Mm-hmm.
very inappropriate. And he started on me, I think I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when he started on Stella Ann and Francis,
Mm.
but he was a piece of work. But the moral of that story is I finally one day told Mama I didn't want to go to the park with him anymore. I didn't want to do what he was telling me to do. And I didn't want to do it. I wanted to watch Captain Midnight. It was Saturday morning, nice and sunshiny
Mm-hmm.
day, just like, like this morning was. And I wanted to watch Captain Midnight and Howdy Doody Time. And I was sweeping the floor for Mama. And here he comes. I'm like, I'm not going. I don't want to go. So I told Mama. Mama took that broom. At that time, we had what's called sunken living rooms.
Mm-hmm.
You had to step down from the platform into the living room. So she had to run up there and then get to the platform and then go around and then down there and then go upstairs. She took that broom and she went running. I didn't know what was going on. I don't know how long it took. Next thing I heard all this commotion and I saw brother come running and Mama was behind him with my broom and she was just whacking him on his back and whacking him and the broom was just splintering and she was just, she was hitting and he was running and she chased him on out the door. I do not know time-wise, but I know one day, another sunshiny day, the sun always shines in my life.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing because God's always shining on me, always looking out for me. And he was standing in the doorway. The sun was behind him, and there were 2 police officers on either side of him, and they were facing me. Mama and I were down in the living room. He was up on the platform with the 2 policemen, and Mama just hugged me, and she said, Vivian, you didn't do anything wrong by telling me what Uncle Brother did. Uncle Brother was wrong. What he did, it was wrong. And you were right. And he's going to be punished for what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just hugged me, and the 2 officers turned him around. His hands were handcuffed behind his back. And his arms, they were like this. And each one of them took each one of the arms and walked him out the door, and I never saw him again. And that was her son.
Now, how did it make you feel to have your mother protect you?
You have to remember, I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word protect mean? Can you spell it for me? I don't know. I I knew I wasn't in trouble. That's the best thing I knew.
Yeah.
Like when I lost that money, I wasn't in trouble.
Yeah.
But when she died, I thought she died because I told her.
Oh, man.
As if I hadn't told Mama, she wouldn't have died. It wasn't about me doing anything wrong, as I caused her to die.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until a long time later they found out she died from cancer. It had nothing to do with me. But all my life, for a long time, I thought I killed her. Because I told her.
Yeah. And have you ever received the records from Chemung County Court that you requested?
Chemung County. I have, for the last 3, almost 4 years now, I have called, written letters, emailed, not text, but email. Couple of things. New York State says that if there's a sealed file, which I learned there is a sealed file because I was a minor, that if you request it be unsealed, that you can get your record. But what I'm finding is either with the pandemic and I got a 65-year-old record, either they don't want to take the money and the manpower to go find it,
Mm-hmm.
or in 1972, there was a hurricane that came in through Florida
Mm-hmm.
called Agnes.
Mm-hmm.
Agnes went up the coast of Florida,
Mm-hmm.
rummaging, veered out to the Atlantic. Everybody thought it was gone. And then she made a U turn and came in through upstate New York. She came as a drizzle,
Mm-hmm.
stayed for 2 weeks, destroyed 10 cities. The Chemung River overflowed, destroyed everything in downtown Elmira. That hurricane made Katrina look like a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
It destroyed. I mean, it was. So what I did, I put it in the book. It could well be because files were paper files then. There
Yeah.
was no computers. There was no microfiche. There was nothing. Those files could well be gone, as so many other files are. But at this point, I'm still trying to get the file. So far, I have not been able to. And my genealogist who lives in Elmira, she's been trying also. The
Mm-hmm.
record is there, but trying to get a record that's 60 some years old is difficult. And that's the problem I'm having. I do remember there was a hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being in the room, sitting there with a brown desk and a brown chair. There was Mama was there, the police officers were there. There was what I believe could have been an attorney who was there, and he was kind of straddling the corner of the desk and asking me questions. And I've been trying to hear him in my mind's eye,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't make out what he was saying to me. So I know there was a hearing, and I firmly believe he got prosecuted. I believe that because Mama made sure if she had him taken away and they took him away, he was prosecuted. Now what happened? That's why I want the file. I'd like to know what happened. And so I'm still working on that. I'm still working on it. The best thing would be for me to go up there,
Mm-hmm.
but problems with that is I looked into it. You talk about round trip airfare, then I don't know how many days I'll have to stay up there. So it's hotel, car rental, food, whatever fees I might have to pay, round trip airfare. It gets to be quite costly.
Yeah.
So, but I that's where I'm at this point. We're still trying to actually get the record, but it's just old. It's
Yeah.
old.
Hmm. How did the passing of both Mom Carter and Mama Mary affect you? I know you said, you thought it was your fault, but
Well, Mama Mary and Daddy Alfred and I were very close too, and Daddy had a quartet called the Gospel Airs, and they cut a record, and
hmm,
they were on the radio live on Sunday mornings. I'd listen to them, and he would sing some songs. He had a song he would sing to me called "Daddy's Little Girl." It was done in the tune of "Shep and the Limelights," "Daddy's Home," and it was in that tune that he then put his words in it. I don't know if he wrote it or not. I have no idea, but it was wonderful. And they did some touring. Mom and Mary played the piano, and I would go with them. I was reading sheet music at 4 years old. I was singing, going with them. And we moved a couple of times after Mama Carter died, and then we fished a lot. We went fishing. We lived off the land, Daddy. We went fishing, crabbing. He um, rabbits, deer, squirrel. He when I was a hunter, and then we had a garden like Mama Carter had, and we raised everything, and Mama Mary canned everything just like Mama Carter did, and Daddy hunted, and we fished. And one day they decided they were going to Montauk Point deep sea fishing on the boat.
hmm,
And Mommy would not let me go. And I threw a hissy fit. I wanted to go a different place. And she wanted me to go another place. And so I threw this fit. So she let me do what I wanted to do. And they went out to Montauk Point fishing. While they were fishing, what I was told is that as she was reeling in a fish, she had a heart attack.
hmm,
And they didn't have the facilities on the boat to save her. She died on the boat, and Daddy told me that she died in his arms, saying, "Alfred, take care of Vivian."
yeah,
And that was the last time I saw her. And I blamed myself for her death because I threw a tantrum, and I thought because I threw the tantrum, like I told Mama, I caused her to die. So it took a long time for me to realize she had a heart attack. It had nothing to do with me.
Okay. So, how did moving between all those homes affect you? How do you think it made it better for you? And maybe how did it uh, cause hindrance in some areas?
Well, the good thing is I knew everybody. I didn't go with strangers, so that was good. I'd already been around my godparents all the time. And the fourth home, I knew her because in actuality, she was one of Mama's foster kids too,
Mm.
but she was a lot older than me. So I knew her enough to not, be, oh gosh, I'm going somewhere with people I don't know. So I never had that problem. So being in kinship care had its advantages. But the thing that was hard is Mama had this huge house, which was beautiful. And when we moved to Bridgehampton, it was a big change. We had an outhouse,
Mm.
whereas always I had an in-house.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the first house I bought had 3 bathrooms inside.
Yeah. No more going out.
Oh, that outhouse and that snake. Oh
There was
God,
a snake.
yeah, yeah. I never got a chance to see it. I heard it, I saw it wiggle, and I was gone. Daddy was a hunter, and he came out with his rifle and paya, paya. No more snake. We moved. I don't know if that's why, but we moved. And that house was like, it was just a little house. It was on cement cinder blocks. So it was, set up, and here was the cinder blocks holding it up off the ground. Um, very different from where I had lived before. But, and like, I had a bathtub before. This time I took a bath in a big round aluminum tub.
Yeah.
So I took a bath and heated the water and poured the water in and then put us in.
Yeah.
That's how I take a bath. But the thing is, in that house, we had a lot of love.
Yeah.
We had a lot of love. And Mom, Mary, and Daddy Alfred, we were in the church, and they were a deacon and deaconess, and we went to Bridgehampton Baptist Church. And we were in church all the time. And so I grew up in the church, and I grew up giving and helping and doing all those good things. But yeah, it was a big change from Elmira. And my dog, my black retriever, I don't know what happened to Lady.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Lady was big to me. And see, I used to love Hopalong Cassidy and all those old time westerns.
Mm-hmm.
So a Lady was big, so I thought she was my horse. So I'd get on her. I figured I was going to ride, no saddle.
Yeah.
The Lady was like, boing. I'd be on the ground and she'd be gone. She was such a good dog. Oh, I loved Lady. And I don't ever know what happened to my lab, my black lab. I don't know what happened to her. I never saw her again. And then when we left Bridgehampton, we moved to Southampton. And Mom, Mary, and Daddy had a better home. Instead of being up on cinder blocks, it was made of cement.
Okay.
But it was sitting on the ground,
Yeah.
it was cinder block.
Yeah.
Cement sides.
Yeah.
And if it was hot, it was sweat. The walls were sweat. And there was a garage next to the house. It was a little one room with a little kitchen. And we had an in-house. We had a bathroom in-house.
All right. No more out.
No more outhouse.
Or snakes.
It was really tiny. It was just really tiny.
Yeah.
And then there was a garage next door, which was Pop Spinner, who owned the place. This was another African-American male who owned a lot of property back then. He was a minister.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived across the street. And we lived from him. It was a dirt road called Spinner Road, and the road is there today. I think they've even paved it now. And all that, it was a lot of property that he owned. He was the Southampton Cemetery caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so his daughter lived next to us. And then there was another family up here. Then you went down the road and there were other families. And apparently Mommy and Daddy bought property from him because Daddy was a custom home builder and a brick mason.
Mm.
And he was building Mom Mary her dream home.
Aww.
We were getting out of those little cement houses and having another indoor bathroom, I hope. I never want to see going in an outhouse again. And so that's how it was. We finally did move to the new big house,
Yeah.
which had 3 bedrooms and an indoor bathroom, though it was awful small.
It was small.
It was kind of small,
But it was inside.
but it was inside. We didn't have any sheetrock on the walls. He hadn't put the sheetrock in yet. So for a while, we were there with just the 2x4 frame, so you could see in all the rooms. They put a curtain over the bathroom, and that was that way for a little while. And finally, we got Daddy got the sheetrock up there, so we couldn't see anymore from room to room. It was a big piece of property. Mom Mary, she and I planted everything in the garden, and we had ducks and chickens and pigs, and Daddy still went fishing and hunting.
Yeah.
And that's how the housing was. And that's where I lived until I moved from there to my 4th home.
So did you garden? Did you get your own garden as you got older?
What do you mean? As I grew up?
Yeah. Did you decide when you left home and you're an adult, you're on your own? Did you ever make a garden?
Yep. At Kroger's and whatever. Go in there and give vegetables.
Gardening with me.
No, I did not do all that because I lived in Queens.
Oh.
So I lived in the city when I grew up. So there's no place to really garden. And then I wasn't thinking about gardening. I'd done enough of that as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't want to garden anyways.
Oh,
We did that. And it was good. It was good because that's why I'm so healthy. Because those 2 ladies really kept me healthy.
Yeah.
Fresh food all the time. Daddy hunted. We had fresh meat, everything. Mom Mary canned. And then she used to make homemade wine. Of course, that was supposed to be for the grown-ups, but somehow I always just found a way to taste it. Taste her wine. It was good.
Oh.
But she used to make homemade wines, blueberry wine, and what was the other one she made? It was blueberry and peach wine.
Peach. That's
Blueberry
good.
and peach. They were good. They didn't know I was tasting them.
You acting up.
I was acting up. I was very inquisitive. And in the book, I just don't talk about the serious things all the time. I talk about the funny things too. They didn't.
Yeah.
We went visiting one time, and the couple was a 2-story house. Bathroom was upstairs. Had a brown wooden door.
Yeah.
And I used to like to go in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
And snoop, just snoop, see what was in there. To this particular bathroom, I went in, and I was getting ready to snoop, but then I saw this key in the door, and I shut the door. There was a key in the door. I went, oh. The commode was sitting in front of the doors. I put it on the thing, looked in the medicine cabinet, nothing. And below it was this beautiful box of powder. It's pink and gold.
Mm-hmm.
With the powder puff in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it out. I just wanted to smell it. And those things have like a suction to them. They pull them out to open them up.
Powder everywhere.
Drop the box. It hit the sink on the way to the floor.
You broke the box.
No, the powder went all over the place.
Yeah. But the box didn't break.
Box was fine. I wasn't fine. The key was sitting there in the powder. So then I was in there for so long. So I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I'm in trouble. So I figured, okay, I took the powder puff and I tried to sweep the powder back with the powder puff.
So now I got all sorts of stuff in the powder.
That didn't work. So I'm starting to cry now. I figure, how am I going to get out of this? I'm really in trouble.
Yeah.
Then I heard Mom Mary say, Vivian, is everything okay in there? You're in there all for a long time. Yeah, I'm fine. Vivian. And then I heard the lady who owned the house say she left the key in the door. So they said, Vivian, take the key out the door and slide it underneath so we can open the door.
Yeah.
If they thought I was going to slide that key under that door, they were crazier than I was. I wasn't sliding. Let them see what I've done. Oh, no. That key stayed right on the counter in the powder. I sat there. I was really crying. I was like, what am I going to do? I said, then I heard Daddy, Vivian, open his door. Come on, I can get that key. I'm really crying. I'm just bawling. And I told you, Daddy was a construction worker. He built custom homes and everything. I heard him say, you got a screwdriver? I'll just take the door off the hinges. I really started crying. Next thing I heard was all this noise and everything. And down came the door.
Gotcha.
Can you imagine what they saw?
Ooh.
I'm sure they were halfway between laughing, angry, and embarrassed.
Yeah.
But yeah, he took the door off the hinges, the whole door. Don't ask me what happened because I don't remember. But I tell you what, like the money, I never went snooping anymore. That cured me of that.
All right. So, do you think that there is a stigma attached to foster care children?
I do. I do. I think the stigma is put there because they don't have anyone they call their own. You know, you have a mother and father. You can say my mother and father.
Yes.
Can I say my father? I can say my mother, sort of,
Yeah.
you know. But can I say you can tell about your history and your family and everybody else? Blood relatives.
Mm-hmm.
How many foster kids can do that? You're just kind of out there. In my case, I was very blessed because I ended up having kinship to go to and good families, even though I wasn't a blood relative. And at one point, mommy and daddy were going to adopt me and they didn't. And I got mad at them after mommy died. And I even crossed off the name Spellman and put Campbell back because I was so mad at them.
Yeah.
But you don't have your history, all those things. I had no history. I have nothing before 13 other than my birth certificate. And I had to go search for that.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. The Spellman family has been a great family for me. They've been my kinship family. I've never been treated like I was a foster child. Some of them don't even know. That's how much mommy and daddy were just like that, mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
And foster children have to believe in themselves. They've got to find a way to focus on something other than the circumstances and to be able to rise above it. And for me, I think being in church was one of the best things because I was helping others all the time. I was a candy striper at the hospital in Riverhead,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I was in my teens. So I was helping folks. I'm still out here helping people and doing things in the community. But it's very difficult because it, there's so many people who misuse foster kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unforgivable because we are human beings. We are not things. We are not something you just have and you throw all the bad stuff at us to do. You can't do that. It shouldn't be done. And many times that makes individuals feel they have no self esteem, they have no self worth, they don't know who they are. Now, there are some great foster parents. I had great foster parents. I mean, anytime a woman turns her son in to the police for molesting her foster kids, that's a lot. That says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm sure there's others who would do that, but how many won't and let it go on and maybe be part of that?
Mm-hmm.
I was never hit. I was punished, but I was never beat. How many does that not happen to? That they are beat instead of whatever. So for me, my goal is to help be able to increase the awareness of self that you can achieve, you can succeed. You have to set some goals. You have to look further than where you are and look where you can be. And when you can focus on that and set some goals, you can move forward. And this is what I did. Even with all the good people around me, I still couldn't understand. I kept asking myself all the time, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
How come nobody wants me? I used to ask myself and cry myself to sleep all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, my hippocampus totally shut down because all the trauma and anything, it just said like, you know what? I'm going on hiatus. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to get through. And then the good people around me.
Good people, right? So, what advice do you give the foster child who doesn't have good people around them, who does feel like, nobody wants them? How do you help them overcome those circumstances? What would you say to them?
I don't know if foster kids totally overcome the feeling of not being wanted, because every so often I get that feeling
Mm.
that, you know, but I fight it. I'm like, Vivian, get up and do something. Go, do something else. So I get myself off of there. But sometimes, every once in a while, I get to feeling like nobody really wants me. And what they're going to have to do the same thing. They're going to have to rise above it. They're going to have to find a way to overcome that feeling. Whether it's, if they already start out doing things in the community or doing things for others, then they're going to be able to constantly do for others. And they're always going to realize that I'm worth something. And that's the most, it's your self value. And that's what they have to build up, is self value. And by being out in the community and being in my church and doing all the things that I do, I know my self worth.
Awesome.
I know my self worth.
Now, the question I really need to know, is there going to be another book?
Well, this one's just coming out.
Okay.
So I have to make sure that this is going good. And we're working on trying to get it on Barnes and Noble, also beside Amazon. Unfortunately, my files was too big, and we're having to go back and downsize a lot of things in order to get it up on Barnes and Noble. But I don't know. I honestly, right now, don't know.
Okay.
It just depends. Uh, there are some things that I could do, which I don't know if I want to do. But right now, this has only been out less than 2 weeks. So I'm still promoting it and getting folks to realize it exists. And since I'm from the old school, learning how to do ebook and Kindle on Amazon, I gotta have people call me, Vivian. How do I bought the book and I can't figure out how to do it. What do I do? I said, we have to have Kindle. Well, what's that? How do I put it? Because we come from the old school. We didn't read ebooks.
Yeah.
The younger folks, they're like, this is nothing but a piece of cake. And so I said to my granddaughter, I said, you know what? How do I tell everybody to do? She said, Grandma, they got to have Kindle.
Yeah.
I always go to my grandkids. Remember that commercial that was on TV? The grandkids come over and grandparents got all the electronics in the. I said, I'm glad you're here. Here. I do it when Tyler and Peyton come over. I'm like, here, what do I do with this? But you have to have Kindle. Got to download that onto your cell phone or your computer. And you purchase it on Amazon. And I made it priced so that it's affordable for everybody. It's $8.99. I mean, I'm not trying to make killing on this. I want to make my expenses, obviously, but I want to make it so it's affordable and everyone can purchase it without having to break the bank. And so I got to get this moving first and make sure people who are even getting it that have not a clue how to open it up can do that. And I'm trying to figure out the best way. I don't know. I might have to put some directions out there. But I'm doing the best I can with it too, because ebook was new to me too. I read a lot, but they're paper books. Everybody said, you're going to do a paper book? Do you know how much it costs to do a paper book? Let me get this one done first. But it's really simple. Once you just download the Kindle and you buy the book, then when you open it up, there it is. And see, instead of having this and going like this, you just swipe it, and it's cool. When I first saw it, it's like my granddaughter, she said, look, Grandma, here it is. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's me. I downloaded it. I have an iPad, so I got the Kindle app, and I read it. And it's a very easy read. I mean, like, it's a page turner. You're like, what's happening next? That's why I was like, you kind of left me. I need some more.
Well, I'm a movie buff. I love movies. And see, I hope maybe the next thing could be a movie.
Oh, yeah, I like movies
too. And so what do movies do at the end?
Leave me hanging.
They leave you hanging. See,
one more.
So I hope maybe somebody call me up and say, can we put it into a movie? I think it would make a good movie.
It would.
I really do. And so that's what I would like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is turn it into a movie. And I've tried to find Oprah and Ellen DeGeneres. That's difficult.
It is.
So I just sent it to Rachel Maddow's show. See what'll happen there.
Okay.
So that's what I really would like to do.
Super awesome. Well,
magic of thinking big.
Got to. Got to. Those are all the questions that I have. Would you like to say anything else?
Well, I do appreciate everyone's time to view and listen to this. It's very much appreciated. I know that somebody out there can get some help from this. I also know that somebody out there is learning from this. I also know that if someone wants to do a movie, I'm here. And I thank everyone who has tuned in. And please do get the book. It's a fast read. It's a short. It's powerful. It's compelling. And I don't say that myself, but Don Roberts even told me that. The most important thing is that you understand what's happening to foster kids, and what they have to go through or don't have to go through, and to recognize that if you can help in any way, help, help. The Department of Virginia Beach Social Services, there is a foster program, and I'm going to be working with them, doing some speaking and all with foster parent orientation for new parents, with some of the older kids to help give them some encouragement and inspiration to achieve. So if you can help, help. There's a lot to do. Just have to want to do it. And that's what I would like to say. And thank you. And just please, one more thing. I had a history teacher. I'll never forget Mr. McKeegan. He was a great history teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And he would give us essay tests. And we would say, well, Mr. McKeegan, how long should it be? Now, you can't say this today. And I don't know if I should say it. I think I told you, right? Should I not say it? All right. At any rate, he used to say it should be long enough to cover the subject and short enough to make it interesting. And that's what I've always done when I write anything. Long enough to cover the subject, short enough to make it interesting. So it's a good quick read, and it's a 5-star read. At least that's what they told me on the remarks. So please do. It's on Amazon.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me.